Hi there, Pedro. So nice to see that you have sent us your fifth set of essays. This one is about green energy, so let's get into it straight away and see what you wrote here. The usage of cleaner sources of energy has grown in importance over the past decade. Whether using less pollutant energy sources optimizes costs and benefits the environment or means a severe menace to people's safety is a debatable issue. In this essay, I will discuss both sides of the argument and explain why I truly believe that the upsides of adopting green energy, such as energy produced from solar and wind power, far outweigh the downsides. Okay, I actually liked this introduction. I thought that a couple of your sentences, especially that last one, I thought they kind of were risky, okay, which is not necessarily bad, but they were a little complex. And sometimes when you get into this level of complexity, it's very easy to make a mistake. You didn't, okay? So it was a risk that really paid off for you. But when you do write sentences like this, just be careful. Because it's like I said, it's rather easy to make mistakes like this. Okay, but you did a nice job. So let's keep going. Although clean energy demands higher investments in the short term for the construction of energy plants, it is more cost effective than the traditional combustion process of fossil fuels in the long run. This is simply because the necessary cutting edge technology is expensive. But after the no, you don't mean industry, you mean something else. Um, I think you actually mean after the setup is established. I think that would have been a better way to say this. Renewable sources of energy are far cheaper than coal, oil, and other raw materials. On top of that, there is no doubt about the benefits of clean energy use from an environmental perspective, since its production process results in lower or even no carbon dioxide emissions, according to many scientific studies. You see, research is uncountable. Studies is countable, and many can only be used with a countable noun. So it should have been many scientific studies. Meanwhile, from a practical view, many large corporations have been investing in green energy to comply with policies in favor of carbon footprint reduction. Okay, now I think this sentence is kind of irrelevant. I really liked the rest of your paragraph, though I thought it was really strong, but I don't think this is the point in the paragraph where you want to introduce something like this. This is where you essentially wanted to have that like summary sentence in your paragraph that really just wraps up everything and maybe kind of refers back to the first sentence in your paragraph. So for me, a good sentence would have been something like, therefore, it is clear that renewable energy is beneficial both in terms of economy and environment. So something like that, I think, would have been a solid kind of sentence to write here. Okay. All right, let's look at your next paragraph. However, nuclear energy, which is a particular type of green energy, has been increasingly considered a threat to life due to the fact that uranium can be misused as a weapon with the potential to decimate entire populations. Indeed, the massacres of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are horrific historical examples of uranium's power of destruction. Therefore, international organizations, especially the UN and many developed countries, have been exerting enormous pressure, get rid of Anne here, enormous pressure in certain Middle East countries to prevent the development of nuclear weapons. Unfortunately, this safety concern about nuclear energy should not be disregarded, otherwise, it may cause irreversible negative impacts. Okay, so you've written a very interesting paragraph here. The grammar, the vocabulary, all of that is really very nice. We're especially up here, like decimate populations. That was great. Um, so yeah, there was some really nice language. Unfortunately, um, it's not particularly on topic. I know it's a shame because it was really nicely written. Um, First of all, nuclear energy isn't really considered a type of green energy. Um, it's kind of like this gray area. It's obviously not a fossil fuel, but it's not really considered a type of green energy either. Um, so that, that in and of itself is kind of like, well, that's not what we're talking about here. Um, so when we're talking about energy security, what do we mean? Essentially, energy security is a term that we use to talk about the availability, the wide availability of energy, also at an affordable cost. Okay, so is there enough supply and is it affordable to get? And that's what we mean when we talk about energy security. So an examiner looking at this, you know, the examiner might not penalize you necessarily for calling nuclear energy a green energy. No, because it's not like a knowledge test. But this whole thing is a little off topic. Okay. Um, you took the term energy security very literally to mean like, okay, well, this is energy that could potentially be damaging to the environment, but that's not what energy security is, and that's not what they want you to talk about. So an examiner will probably penalize this essay for task achievement because it kind of goes off topic. So how much the examiner would penalize it, I'm not really sure. I have to really think about it. I would need to have um, the official grading criteria in front of me in order to kind of give you a clearer idea. But unfortunately, only examiners examining actual tests have those available. So yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like part of this was like a vocabulary mistake. Like you didn't really understand what energy security is, but the effect is that it affects your task achievement. So that's why I'm kind of like on the fence about how much this would be penalized. But like I said before, it's really beautifully written with some really, really nice pieces of language. So that's definitely in your favor. Let's look at your conclusion though. In conclusion, the adoption of clean energy sources has become a highly controversial topic when it comes to nuclear energy. As uranium is still a treat, you don't mean treat, you mean threat here, to global peace, we should continue exploring other clean energy sources instead of overlooking an alternative that is key to an environmentally sustainable society. Okay, lovely language, but again, you know, there's all this focus on nuclear energy. So, to give you an idea of what would have been good topic development, you could have talked about how the setup costs, and I think you mentioned that somewhere. The setup costs for like all this green energy stuff is really, really expensive. I mean, like just imagine, you know, these wind generators, these giant windmills, like, you know, what does something like that cost? I mean, it's not something that like your average person can do. So, um, you know, you could talk about the setup costs for these, or even like solar panels, having enough solar panels to really provide energy. It's a costly investment. Okay. So you could have talked about that. And so that's not really something that uh, many individuals, you know, or rather many cities and towns, let alone individuals, are able to do. So um, you could have talked about that. You also could have talked about the fact that it's not so widely available, so that it can generate enough energy to supply, you know, important facilities like hospitals or schools. Or so there's really this concern about the amount and the availability, like how much yield these types of energy sources create, and so they might not be enough to depend solely on them. So those are some of the things you could have talked about. Okay, just to give you some ideas. All right. So I hope that makes sense. I thought you wrote really beautifully. I'm really happy about, you know, like I said, some of the language and some of the expressions that you used in this essay. Really, really, really nicely done. But this focus on nuclear energy, of course, is a little off. So let's take a look at the map now, see what you did here. The two maps show the same islands over the years and how, all right, careful with your grammar here, because then you said how it developed. It's the same island and then how it developed. So the two maps this show the same island over the years and how it developed through the construction of different types of facilities. Fine. Overall, it is clear that the island has shifted from an inhabited place, you don't mean that, due to the lack of infrastructure to you mean uninhabited, okay? An uninhabited place due to the lack of infrastructure to a populated residential area. In the past, there were only trees spread in the center of the island near the beach, which have been mostly replaced by accommodations. Okay, I thought this was fine up to here, but this part I would have left out because you're getting into details now. You don't need them, not in the overview. This was more than enough here, really. Okay, so let's see. In the east side of the island, besides the east side of the island, this is the east side. Okay, besides the accommodations, not only a vehicle track and footpaths have been developed, but also a lake has been created. Okay, fine. In the center, the island has been provided with a new mall and other commercial buildings connected to the local community by car roads and walkways. By the west side of the island, singular here, it's not many islands, it's just one. We can see that a pier has been built to receive sea transportation. Also, more accommodations are available in this area, which are, because it's plural, right? So are cut by footpath that leads to the beach. Finally, vehicle track alongside the coastal beach remained the same. Okay, so that's fine. I think for me the biggest problem here in this, um no, I'm not going to start with the biggest problem. I thought you did a good job. Um, I also have to tell you that no matter how many times I've seen this, I think you're the first person who understood this to be a vehicle track going around the beach. So that's super interesting. I think you might be right. But like I said, it's the first time that anybody actually kind of pointed that out. Anyway, so I want to talk to you basically in terms of something that needed any kind of fixing. I thought you did a great job. But this paragraph, as I already said before, your overview should have stopped here. Then, this is essentially the only thing you really do to talk about the first map, the first image of the island. And think about this. Like, imagine that you're an IELTS examiner or you're somebody making this test. For them to put both maps on here, they want you to talk about them. Okay. And again, you did, but I really would have given this a little attention. I'm not saying you have to write a ton of things, and I know that like I said, you did write this, where was it? You did write this sentence here, okay? And I told you that it really didn't belong here. So what I'm suggesting is this. I'm suggesting that you should have stopped your review here, and then you should have had a paragraph with this information. And but just give a little focus to the before part of the island. It's just like with any IELTS task. Like if they're giving you something or if they're presenting you something, whether it's a task 2 or a task 1, they probably want you to talk about it a little bit. So what I'm suggesting is say that the island literally had absolutely no infrastructure, that it had trees scattered along the north of the island as well as in the south central portion of the island. You could refer to the scale to talk about the size of the island, okay, both, north, south, and east, west. And then that's it. And then you could have then made your comparisons saying that after construction, XYZ happened. And then that's fine. But so, just to reiterate, I didn't think that this piece of information should have been in this paragraph. I think it should have been definitely separate. And I think you could have added at least a little piece of information to give some focus to that before map. I think this is a very good set though in general. I'm seeing some really nice things in your writing. I see good grammar, good vocabulary, good expression, lots of really lovely things. So you're definitely doing great. But as you saw today, there were some things that needed a little work. So let's talk now, Pedro, about our next steps. It's a last set with us. You'll get an email with a link inviting you to perhaps sign up for more essay corrections with us. See if that's something you want to do. If you've been finding this helpful, I see, lots of improvement in your writing for sure. So if you want to continue working with us, we would love that. Definitely help you along the way to IELTS. So hopefully we'll get to work together. We'll get to continue working together in the future. Let us know either way what you decide to do. Of course, if you decide to take your exam, let us know how that goes. But I hope we get to see more of your essays. Okay, so good luck to you.